Nielsen, I must tell you the time has come to make a decisive transition from theory to practice. You've done enough experimentation, my dear fellow. This room has more significance for us than you can possibly realize. Oh, well, one day perhaps he will realize. Don't you think, gentlemen? Forget about fertilizers. This factory is required by the Reich to increase its production of heavy water by 400%. We want 10,000 pounds of heavy water by Easter next year.
That's impossible.
It's not at all impossible, Herr Nielsen. Heroes of Telemark. Professor Leif Trunze must have thought that had Norway still been at peace during the autumn of 1941, he'd fully arrived. If only the Nazis hadn't got there first. One of 5 children, he was largely raised by his mother, his father having died 3 months after he was born. By 1918, when he graduated from school with top marks in mathematics, his talents were clear. He gained practical experience with a couple of electrical companies before becoming a student at what would be Oslo University's Faculty of Engineering. Having switched to technical chemistry, he graduated first in his year. As well as a budding scientist, he was an accomplished sportsman. In 1924, he moved up to Trondheim, Harald Hardrada's old capital, to study at the Norwegian Institute of Technology. His work once again was deemed outstanding, and meanwhile he'd completed his initial compulsory military service, promoted to second lieutenant armourer. His career flourished, advancing through a series of appointments while finding time to get married and father 2 children. He worked as an assistant to Herbert Freundlich in Berlin, where he made a dazzling breakthrough by divining how to measure very thin oxide surface coatings, a solution which had eluded chemists for a very long period. Next, he was appointed Professor of Technical Inorganic Chemistry at the Norwegian Institute of Technology in 1936, one of the youngest full professors in the country. Leif Trunze was once called the worst student ever accepted into the chemical engineering program at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, NTNU, in Trondheim. He turned out to be perhaps its most brilliant graduate. By the late 1920s, the young inorganic chemist used ellipsometry to show some metals had a thin protective oxide layer. Today it's a standard technique in thin film chemistry and physics. At the time, it solved why some metals, contrary to their electrode potentials, will not corrode. But Trunze's name will forever be attached to something else: heavy water.